Some women just aren't meant to be mothers. Beverly's voice drifted from the kitchen. Maybe it's time we stop pretending. I froze in the hallway, my hand gripping the doorframe to steady myself. I hadn't meant to eavesdrop, but the words sliced through me with surgical precision. "Mom, please," Michael responded, his voice low but tense. "We're trying our best. The doctors say there's no reason it shouldn't happen." 2 years, Michael. 2 years of these so-called treatments, and nothing. I hate seeing you waste your life waiting for something that clearly isn't meant to be. I backed away silently, my heart hammering in my chest. The pill organizer I'd come to retrieve sat forgotten on the kitchen counter as I retreated to the guest bedroom. My name is Geneva Wilson, 36 years old, a paralegal at Sandoval and Associates in Albuquerque. For 2 years, I've been taking fertility medication, following strict schedules, and enduring monthly disappointments while trying to conceive with my husband, Michael. Every negative test has been a tiny funeral for a hope that never materialized. Beverly, my mother-in-law, moved in with us temporarily after selling her house last year. She was supposed to stay until she found a new place, but months had passed with no sign of her looking. Instead, she'd inserted herself into every aspect of our lives, particularly our fertility journey. "I'm just trying to help," she'd insist, organizing my medications, reminding me about appointments, asking invasive questions about my cycle. I'd accepted her involvement, desperate for support, and eager to prove myself worthy of her son. Michael and I had always planned to have children. We delayed it for years while I finished school and established my career, confident that when the time was right, nature would cooperate. When it didn't, we sought medical help. The doctors found nothing physically wrong with either of us, just one of those unexplained cases of infertility that would eventually resolve with medication and patience. I settled on the edge of the bed, Beverly's words echoing in my mind. Had she been saying these things to Michael all along? Did he secretly agree with her? As I sat there, I remembered something odd from that morning. While getting ready for work, I'd noticed my fertility pills looked different, slightly larger with a faintly different sheen. I dismissed it as a generic brand substitution by the pharmacy. Now, a cold suspicion formed in my stomach. I pulled out my phone and searched for images of my medication, comparing them to the mental picture of what I'd taken that morning. They didn't match. With trembling hands, I checked the reminder app on my phone. My prescription should have been refilled 3 weeks ago, but I had no memory of picking it up. Beverly had offered to handle it for me, saying she was happy to help with anything that might bring a grandchild. A terrible possibility began taking shape in my mind. Michael and I met at a courthouse where I was filing documents for my firm, and he was covering a case for the local newspaper. He'd asked for my help navigating the clerk's office, and I'd given him more than directions. I'd given him my number. 6 months later, we were engaged. A year after that, married in a small ceremony at his parents' house. Beverly had seemed supportive initially. She welcomed me with elaborate dinners and thoughtful gifts. But there were always undercurrents. Comments about Michael's ex-girlfriend who became a doctor. Questions about when I planned to move beyond paralegal work. Subtle reminders that the Wilson family had certain expectations. When we announced our plans to start a family, Beverly's interest intensified. She sent articles about maternal age and fertility concerns. She reminisced about how she'd conceived Michael without even trying at 23. She began showing up at our house unannounced, often during times when we might have been trying to conceive. Despite these tensions, I'd never considered her an enemy. I viewed her as a woman who loved her son fiercely, perhaps too fiercely. I believed that once I became pregnant, she would transfer that intensity to her grandchild. I wanted to make our relationship work. When Beverly sold her house and needed somewhere to stay, I was the one who suggested she move in with us. Michael had hesitated, but I insisted. It was an opportunity to strengthen our bond, I reasoned, to show her I wasn't the career-obsessed daughter-in-law she feared. Her presence changed the dynamic of our home immediately. She cooked elaborate meals that ignored my dietary preferences. She rearranged furniture and decorations without asking. She established routines that centered around her comfort. Most significantly, she began managing my fertility treatments. It started innocuously, offering to pick up prescriptions when she was already running errands, setting up a pill organizer in the kitchen where she could remind me to take my medication. I'd felt grateful for her help, interpreting it as acceptance. There had been warning signs looking back. Times when I was certain I'd had more pills left in a bottle. Occasions when the medication seemed different, a slightly altered color or shape that I attributed to lighting or my imagination. A peculiar satisfaction in Beverly's expression when my period arrived each month. But nothing concrete enough to justify suspicion. Nothing that couldn't be explained by generic substitutions or my own stressed perception. Then came the odd coincidences. Whenever Beverly visited her sister for a weekend, I'd feel different, more energetic, with the familiar hormonal shifts the medication was supposed to induce. When she returned, those sensations would fade. I'd dismissed these patterns as stress-related, a psychosomatic response to having our house to ourselves. Now I wasn't so sure. That evening, I retrieved the pill organizer from the kitchen counter while Beverly was busy watching her television programs. In the bathroom, I examined the contents carefully. The pills looked similar to my prescription at first glance, white, round, approximately the same size. But compared to the reference images on my phone, the differences were evident. These had no manufacturer's imprint. The edges were smoother. They dissolved faster when I placed one in water. These weren't my fertility medications. They looked like simple sugar pills. I flushed them down the toilet, my hands shaking with rage and disbelief. Could Beverly really have been sabotaging my treatments? For how long? And why? The questions swirled in my mind as I heard Michael arrive home from work. I composed myself, determined not to confront anyone until I had proof beyond a single day's pills. I needed to be strategic, to understand the full scope of Beverly's interference before taking action. Over dinner, I watched Beverly carefully as she inquired about my doctor's appointment scheduled for the following week. "I can drive you," she offered, serving Michael an extra portion of roast chicken while giving me a considerably smaller piece. "You shouldn't have to worry about parking downtown." "That's kind, but I'll manage," I replied, keeping my voice neutral. "My office is just a few blocks away." Still, it must be so stressful going to these appointments month after month with no results. Her sympathetic tone didn't match the gleam in her eyes. "Have they suggested alternatives yet?" "Alternatives?" I echoed. "Well, adoption, or perhaps surrogacy with a younger egg donor." Beverly patted Michael's hand. "There are many ways to have a family these days." Michael looked uncomfortable, but remained silent, focusing on his food instead of defending me. His passivity felt like another betrayal. "The doctors are still optimistic," I said carefully. "Sometimes these treatments take time." 2 years is more than time, dear." Beverly's smile was sharp. "It's a message." That night, I couldn't sleep. While Michael snored beside me, I slipped out of bed and searched our bathroom thoroughly. In the back of a drawer beneath Beverly's guest toiletries, I found a prescription bottle with my name on it, my actual fertility medication. The date showed it had been filled just 3 weeks ago, but the bottle was nearly full. She had been intercepting my prescriptions and replacing the real medication with sugar pills, all while pretending to help. The evidence shook me to my core. I returned the bottle exactly as I'd found it and crept back to bed, my mind racing with implications. For 2 years, I'd blamed myself for our failure to conceive. I'd endured invasive procedures, hormonal side effects, and crushing disappointment, all while the solution was being deliberately kept from me by someone I trusted. I lay awake until dawn, calculating and planning. I wouldn't confront Beverly immediately. I needed to be smarter than that. I needed to understand if Michael was complicit or merely oblivious. And most importantly, I needed to secure access to my real medication without tipping my hand. The game had changed. And Beverly had no idea I was now playing. The next morning, I called my doctor's office from work, and requested an immediate appointment, citing concerns about my medication. When the nurse asked what prompted my visit, I kept my explanation vague, just enough to secure a same-day slot during my lunch break. Dr. Patel greeted me with her usual warm efficiency. "Geneva, this is unexpected. Is everything all right?" I closed her office door and took a deep breath. I need to know if it's possible someone has been replacing my fertility medication with sugar pills. Her expression shifted from surprise to concern. "That's a serious allegation. What makes you think this might be happening?" I explained my discovery, showing her photos of the pills from my organizer compared to images of the actual medication. Dr. Patel examined them carefully, her frown deepening. "These do appear different," she agreed. "I can't confirm they're sugar pills without testing, but they're definitely not what I prescribed." She asked pointed questions about who had access to my medication, and I reluctantly explained Beverly's role in managing my prescriptions. Dr. Patel's expression grew troubled. "Geneva, medication tampering is illegal. It's a form of assault. If your mother-in-law is doing this, you should consider involving the authorities." The thought was overwhelming. "I need more proof first," I said. "And I need to figure out if my husband knows." Dr. Patel wrote a new prescription, instructing the pharmacy to not allow anyone but me to pick it up. "Keep this medication secure," she advised, "and consider consulting with a therapist about how to handle the situation. This is a profound breach of trust." I left her office with the prescription clutched in my hand, feeling simultaneously vindicated and devastated. My suspicions weren't paranoia, they were reality, but confirmation brought new challenges. Should I confront Beverly immediately? Tell Michael? Go to the police? I filled the prescription at a different pharmacy and kept the medication in my desk drawer at work. That evening at home, I pretended nothing had changed, swallowing Beverly's sugar pills while she watched with that same satisfied smile. Over the next 2 weeks, I took my real medication at the office while maintaining the charade at home. I documented everything: photographs of the fake pills, dates and times Beverly reminded me to take them, the bottle of real medication I'd found hidden in her things. I created a secure digital record that couldn't be discovered or destroyed. What I didn't do was confide in Michael. His continued silence during Beverly's pointed comments made me uncertain where his loyalties truly lay. Had he known all along? Was he complicit in his mother's scheme? My uncertainty was answered 3 weeks later when I overheard them arguing in his home office. I stood outside the door, listening. "Mom, this has gone on long enough," Michael said, his voice uncharacteristically firm. "I spoke with the doctor today. Geneva's been following the treatment plan perfectly. There's no reason it shouldn't be working." My heart lifted momentarily. He was defending me. "Unless the problem isn't the treatment," Beverly replied. "Have you considered that maybe she doesn't want children? That she's secretly taking birth control? Career women often say they want families but put it off indefinitely." "That's ridiculous," Michael protested, but his tone lacked conviction. "Is it? She works late twice a week. She's on her phone constantly. For all you know, she could be living a completely different life." "Geneva wouldn't do that." "Wouldn't she?" "I found this in her purse yesterday." There was a moment of silence, then Michael's shocked voice. "A birth control pill packet? Are you sure? Check the name on the prescription if you don't believe me." My blood ran cold. Beverly had planted false evidence. Worse, Michael seemed ready to believe it. After 2 years of shared struggle, his faith in me was so fragile that one planted discovery could shatter it. I backed away from the door, my mind racing. The situation had just escalated beyond anything I'd imagined. Beverly wasn't just preventing a pregnancy. She was actively trying to destroy my marriage. That night, Michael confronted me in our bedroom, his expression a mixture of hurt and anger. "Is there something you want to tell me?" he asked, holding up a birth control pill packet with my name on it. I stared at the packet, momentarily speechless. It looked authentic. a standard prescription with a label from our regular pharmacy. Beverly must have gone to extraordinary lengths to create this forgery. That's not mine, I said finally. I've never seen it before. It has your name on it, Geneva. Mom found it in your purse. And you believe her? I asked, my voice rising. Your mother went through my personal belongings, produced something I've never seen before, and you're taking her word over mine? Michael faltered slightly. I don't know what to believe anymore. 2 years of treatments with no results. The doctors say there's no medical reason it's not working. So you think I've been sabotaging our chances? Why would I do that? Why would I put myself through the appointments, the side effects, the monthly disappointment? I don't know, he exclaimed. Maybe you changed your mind about wanting children. Maybe you're afraid of how it will affect your career. People change, Geneva. The irony was almost unbearable. While I'd been discovering Beverly's betrayal, she had been setting up a counter-narrative that painted me as the deceiver. And Michael, the man who had promised to stand by me through everything, was ready to believe the worst. Michael, look at me, I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. I have never taken birth control behind your back. I want a child, our child, more than anything. He studied my face, uncertainty written in his features. Then how do you explain this? He gestured to the pill packet. I made a split-second decision. I couldn't tell him about Beverly's medication tampering, not yet. If he repeated my accusations to her, she might destroy the evidence I'd collected. I can't explain it, I said carefully. But I swear to you, it's not mine. Someone is trying to come between us. Michael ran his hands through his hair, a gesture of frustration I'd seen countless times during our fertility journey. This is crazy. Why would anyone do that? Think about it, Michael. Who benefits if we start doubting each other? Who's been living with us, inserting herself into our most private struggles? His expression hardened. Don't bring my mother into this. She's been nothing but supportive. Has she? Or has she been undermining me since the day we got married? Making comments about my age, my career, comparing me to your ex-girlfriends? She's old-fashioned, that's all. She wants what's best for me. And she doesn't think that's me, I finished softly. Michael shook his head. You're being paranoid. Mom would never... A knock at our bedroom door interrupted him. Beverly stood there, her expression a perfect mask of concern. I couldn't help overhearing, she said. I'm so sorry this is happening, but perhaps it's for the best that everything's out in the open now. The calculated innocence in her voice made my skin crawl. This was a performance designed to drive the final wedge between Michael and me. Nothing is out in the open, I retorted. You planted that pill packet. Beverly's eyes widened with practiced shock. Why would I do such a thing? Michael, can you believe what she's accusing me of? Michael looked between us, clearly torn. In that moment, I realized the true extent of Beverly's manipulation. She'd been working on him for months, maybe years, planting seeds of doubt about my commitment, my honesty, my worthiness as his wife. I think we all need some space, he said finally. Geneva, maybe you should stay with a friend for a few days until we figure this out. The betrayal was complete. Beverly had succeeded in turning Michael against me, in making me the outsider in my own marriage. As I packed an overnight bag with shaking hands, I understood that everything had changed. This wasn't just about having a baby anymore. This was war. I checked into a hotel that night, my mind racing with plans and contingencies. The next morning, I called in sick to work and visited my gynecologist again, requesting a full workup including a blood test that would show whether I had any birth control hormones in my system. Dr. Patel arranged for expedited results, understanding the urgency of my situation. Geneva, have you considered that your husband might be involved in this deception? She asked gently as the nurse drew my blood. I had considered it during the long, sleepless night at the hotel, but I couldn't bring myself to believe Michael would actively participate in such a scheme. I think he's being manipulated, I said. Beverly has always had a powerful influence over him. Even so, his willingness to believe these accusations without evidence is concerning, Dr. Patel noted. She was right, of course. Michael's readiness to doubt me revealed a fundamental weakness in our relationship. But I wasn't ready to give up on our marriage. Not until I understood exactly what had been happening in our home. The blood test results came back 2 days later, confirming no trace of birth control hormones in my system. Armed with this medical evidence, I decided it was time to retrieve the real fertility medication I discovered in Beverly's drawer. If I could present both the blood test results and the hidden pills to Michael, perhaps he would finally see the truth. I returned to our house while Michael was at work, using my key to enter quietly. Beverly's car wasn't in the driveway, which I took as a fortunate sign. Moving swiftly to the guest bathroom, I opened the drawer where I'd found my medication, only to discover it was empty. A quick search of the entire bathroom yielded nothing. Beverly had moved the evidence. I expanded my search to her bedroom, carefully checking drawers and closets, while ensuring everything remained exactly as I found it. Nothing. As I was about to give up, I noticed her bedside table drawer was slightly ajar. Inside was a journal, Beverly's handwriting clearly visible on the pages. I hesitated, knowing I was crossing a line by reading her private thoughts. But she had crossed far more significant lines with her actions. The journal entries confirmed my worst suspicions. Beverly had been systematically replacing my medication since shortly after she moved in, convinced that I was wrong for her son, and determined to prevent me from trapping him with a child. More disturbingly, she'd begun suggesting to Michael that we consider divorce, positioning herself as the supportive mother who only wanted his happiness. I took photos of the relevant pages with my phone, careful to replace the journal exactly as I'd found it. As I was closing the drawer, I heard the front door open. "Hello? Is someone here?" Beverly's voice called from the entryway. I froze, frantically scanning the room for a place to hide. The closet was too obvious, under the bed too exposed if she entered. The ensuite bathroom was my only option. I slipped inside just as Beverly's footsteps approached her bedroom. Through the crack in the door, I watched her enter, glance around suspiciously, and then check her bedside drawer, the very one I'd just been searching. She opened the journal, examining it carefully as if checking whether it had been disturbed. Apparently satisfied, she locked the journal in the drawer and removed the key, placing it on a chain around her neck. Then she retrieved her phone and made a call. "Michael? It's Mom. You'll never believe what I just found in Geneva's things. Printouts of sperm donor profiles. I think she was planning to get pregnant without telling you it wasn't your child." My heart pounded so loudly I was certain she would hear it. Another fabrication, another attempt to destroy Michael's trust in me. But this lie had given me an unexpected opportunity. Beverly was leaving the house again, heading to Michael's office to show him this evidence. The moment I heard the front door close, I emerged from hiding, my mind racing with a new plan. Beverly had revealed her playbook, and now I knew exactly how to counter it. 3 weeks later, Beverly called a family meeting at our house. Michael had returned home after a week, apologetic and confused. The blood test results had forced him to question Beverly's claims, though he remained uncertain about who to trust. We existed in an uneasy truce, sleeping in separate rooms while trying to navigate the fractured landscape of our marriage. Beverly, sensing her influence waning, had escalated her campaign. She invited Michael's siblings, their spouses, and several family friends to what she described as an intervention for Michael's marriage. I knew what she was planning. The journal entries I'd photographed detailed her intent to publicly announce my barrenness as grounds for Michael to divorce me, positioning herself as the concerned mother who only wanted her son to have the family he deserved. What she didn't know was that I'd been taking my actual fertility medication for over a month now, retrieved from my secure workplace and administered properly, and I'd received news that would dismantle her scheme entirely. The living room was tense as family members arrived, casting curious glances between Michael and me. Beverly orchestrated the seating arrangements to place herself at the center, with Michael beside her and me slightly apart. "Thank you all for coming," she began gravely. I've asked you here because I'm deeply concerned about Michael and Geneva's situation. After years of trying, it's become clear that Geneva cannot provide the family Michael has always wanted. Murmurs of sympathy rippled through the room as Beverly continued, her voice dripping with false compassion. Some women aren't meant to be mothers, and I believe it's time we acknowledge this difficult truth. Michael deserves a chance at fatherhood before it's too late. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to me. Beverly's expression was triumphant, certain she had orchestrated my ultimate humiliation. I smiled calmly and reached into my purse, retrieving an envelope. Oh, right, I almost forgot. I placed the envelope on the coffee table. I have some news to share with everyone. Beverly's face paled as I opened the envelope and removed the ultrasound image, passing it to Michael first. His eyes widened, darting between the photo and my face in disbelief. Are you? He stammered. 10 weeks pregnant, I confirmed, my voice steady despite the emotion swelling in my chest. Dr. Patel confirmed it last week. We're having a baby, Michael. The room erupted in confused congratulations as the ultrasound made its way around the circle. Beverly snatched it when it reached her, studying it as if searching for evidence of forgery. This is impossible, she hissed. You can't be pregnant. Actually, I can, I replied. Once I started taking the real medication instead of the sugar pills you'd been substituting, conception happened rather quickly. A shocked silence fell over the room. Beverly's face contorted with rage and panic. What are you talking about? That's absurd. Is it? I turned to address the gathered family. Beverly has been replacing my fertility medication with sugar pills for nearly 2 years. She hid my real prescriptions, created false evidence to make Michael doubt me, and deliberately sabotaged our attempts to start a family. I retrieved my phone and displayed the photos of Beverly's journal entries, passing it to Michael first. His expression shifted from confusion to horror as he read his mother's words in her own handwriting. Mom? He whispered. Is this true? Beverly stood abruptly, knocking over a glass in her haste. This is all a fabrication. She's trying to turn you against me, Michael. She's always been jealous of our relationship. But her protests fell on deaf ears as the evidence of her manipulation circulated through the stunned family gathering. One by one, Michael's siblings and their spouses rose to leave, their congratulations to us now mixed with coldness toward Beverly. As the last guest departed, Beverly stood isolated in the center of the room, her carefully constructed scheme in ruins around her. You should pack your things, Michael said quietly. I think it's time you found your own place to live. I rested my hand protectively over my stomach, feeling for the first time in years that the future I'd dreamed of was finally within reach. 6 months later, our home felt transformed. Beverly had moved to a senior living community across town, her attempts to reconcile with Michael rebuffed until she agreed to therapy. The spare bedroom that had been hers was now a nursery, walls painted a soothing sage green, filled with books and toys gifted by friends and family who had rallied around us after learning the truth. Michael and I had attended counseling together, rebuilding the trust that Beverly had so methodically dismantled. It wasn't easy. There were difficult conversations about his willingness to believe the worst of me, about the dynamics of his relationship with his mother, about the boundaries we needed to establish going forward. But each session strengthened our foundation, preparing us for the family we were about to become. Dr. Patel continued to monitor my pregnancy with special attention, given our history. Everything looks perfect, she assured me during my latest checkup. After everything you've been through, you deserve this happiness, Geneva. I had kept my job at the law firm, though I planned to take a generous maternity leave when the baby arrived. My experience had inspired me to help create a new policy at work, supporting employees undergoing fertility treatments, providing flexible scheduling and confidential resources. The most profound change, however, was internal. The woman who had endured Beverly's manipulation in silence, who had blamed herself for failures that were never her fault, had been replaced by someone stronger and more certain. I had discovered my capacity to fight for what mattered most, to gather evidence, to strategize, to prevail against someone who wished me harm. As I felt our daughter kick beneath my palm, a strong, insistent movement that seemed to announce her readiness for the world, I smiled. Some lessons come at a high price, and Beverly had paid it in full.